Hi, everybody. Welcome to our final feedback video for this run of the course. How you going,
Yeah,
Craig?
4 weeks goes very quickly, doesn't it, Richard?
It just flies by. It always does. Every time we run one of these videos, it's like, whoa, where'd that go? But
Yeah,
yeah,
although I suppose if you're totally in the present moment, then a moment is like an eternity. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's an indication 4 weeks flying by that we haven't been as present as we wanted to be.
it's a good sign, perhaps. And there is all that research showing time dilation and stuff when people get into the moment. So
Yeah,
perhaps it's a good point indeed.
we'll have to put
Um,
that into our advanced course.
Yeah, right. Time travel,
Yeah,
perhaps. Mindfulness for time travel and
yeah.
well-being. Yeah. So learners this week loved having 3 different meditation exercises to choose from and 3 different links, which is great. So, from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. So it really kind of maybe meets people where they're at.
Yeah, yes. And, the longer practices are not always so easy. Staying awake has been a trick for some. Got a really full home life, work life, and sit down and do a longer practice. And staying awake is a bit of a challenge. Even standing up. And I think the best thing to do is
Even standing up, if you can't stay awake standing up, I guess there's a problem. Or you're a mother of young kids, which I think is what our learner was talking about this week.
I think get a tightrope and string it up between two very tall buildings and then stand on that. That'll keep you awake for sure.
Okay.
But failing that, a few tips. Sometimes I think that what we need is just like a mindful power nap. I mean, if we're really in the moment, notice that tired, then sometimes just sitting down and just really relaxing, not lie down, you'll probably go asleep for a few hours, but just sitting down and just really giving ourselves a good rest. And then after that, glass of water, sit down and then practice the meditation can sometimes be a better way to sort of flip it rather than the meditation turning into a sleep, as often happens. We've got a full life.
I think that's that's really great advice. And when we do these longer meditations, it's normal for challenges to arise. So things like sleepiness and drowsiness is one of the really common ones. The
Mm.
mind wandering or getting agitated or bored, that's another one. And these meditations are designed to kind of help us see that, because these are the sort of the tendencies that are already happening in the mind to get sleepy or get agitated. And it's good if we see that. It's not a problem. I think a lot of people, particularly when they're starting their meditation journey, they think, oh, this sleepiness or this agitation in my mind, I'm not getting this right, or it shouldn't be there. No, it should be there. It was there already. And now
Mm.
we're starting to see it. And I think that's a very important thing, just to stay as present as we can, even with that happening. That's really, in the end, the point of meditation.
And sometimes it points a little signpost to what's happening during the day in terms of how we conserve our energy and how we have moments to just refuel and refresh throughout the day. Because, if we're burning a lot of energy and stress, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that the petrol tank's pretty empty at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So maybe we can sort of run a little bit more efficiently by being mindful and reducing unnecessary tension and stress when we notice it during the day, and conserve energy is very helpful.
Yes, definitely.
Mindful eating was an important topic for a lot of learners this week.
Yeah, it's always a very popular topic, like maybe because it's fun, eating mindfully. I mean, yeah, who knew, right?
Just
But
eating generally.
eating generally, I know, right? Yeah. And one of our learners was talking about, like, it was really poignant actually, talking about, drinking a coffee and imagining where the beans have come from and having a sort of a sense of gratitude, sort of an awareness of the process. Now, that's not, of course, strictly mindfulness, the mind thinking about where things have come from and who was involved in getting it to us. But it's a sort of a greater sense of appreciation and awareness, isn't it? And I think it's a nice thing to do, to have that sort of awareness of food miles, or a sense of gratitude for the farmers, or for the earth for growing this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to do that. And then just to really enjoy that cup of coffee or that meal that you're having. Super important. I ate my breakfast this morning outside, put a nice big jacket on, being here in Melbourne in winter, and just went outside because it's just a nice way to start the day. It's just sort of a moment of stillness and presence before getting into the busyness of the day. So definitely a nice practice.
And I think the perspective does enlarge when we're more mindful, like eating something, but seeing, that things happen in a much bigger environments. And
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes when you look up at the stars, all of a sudden you realize you're on a lump of rock flying at thousands and thousands of kilometers around the universe. And it's kind of, opening up that perspective is a very useful thing. I think for a lot of people these days, nature is becoming, and mindfulness in nature. And we get removed from that, where the food comes from and our place in nature. It's kind of gets lost very easily these days.
It's a great point, actually, that mindfulness is connection. Reconnection with the senses and with ourselves, and with the present moment. But I guess it's also that reconnection with the earth, and perhaps a realization that interconnectedness.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely. Emotions was another big one. I mean, there are lots of big topics this week.
Yes, and a number of learners finding it difficult, as I think we all do, to sit with uncomfortable emotions and to be open to the fact that they're there. And mind you, there's a difference between, I think, being mindful of uncomfortable emotions and learning to sit with them in a mindful way, as opposed to sitting down and ruminating on negative thoughts and oftentimes perpetuating those kinds of emotions. But and some of the learners commenting about, the tendency to distract, to go and do something else, to start scrolling the phone, or as a way of not noticing the emotional state, but rather using mindfulness as a way of learning to sit with it and be with it. Less caught up with it, perhaps, maybe learning to perpetuate it less.
Yes.
But also to show ourselves a little bit of self-compassion, which is not that easy. I mean, it's quite an advanced practice.
It is, isn't it? And it's an important observation. I mean, one of our learners was describing that, the tendency to be busy when there are difficult emotions around. Whether it's in activity or, sometimes just the mind wanders off and gets busy. We don't know why the mind's so distracted, but if we really tune in, it's like, oh, there's something that I don't really want to sit with here. Yeah. And again, do we feed that habit of avoiding, or do we really sort of cultivate, like you said, the ability just to be with things the way they are? And as you've said, it's not easy to do, but it can be a very powerful practice, because if we can stay present with ourselves, even when there's a storm or a hurricane of emotions going on, then we can maintain some sense of sort of balance through the midst of that. And that's a very powerful thing, rather than getting lost in either the emotion or the reactions or the distraction or the things designed to take us away from that.
Yeah, and some of the learners noticing that that's how we can learn about ourselves, because avoidance and turning away doesn't help us to learn about it. So turning in a sense, the light of awareness on what's happening.
Yes.
Not judging or analyzing, but just turning the awareness to it is like shining light on something. And often things are going bump in the night, and but if we've got to turn the light on to actually see and understand something. And so often that depth of insight comes from bringing awareness to something rather than constantly trying to avoid, because avoidance is one of the central things that often feeds anxiety in the first place.
That's right. Yeah. So it's sort of circular, isn't it? In a way.
That's right.
Yeah. So this has been the final feedback video, as we said at the start, for this run of the course. If please leave some feedback for us in step 4.15. Also, there are some links to some review sites. If you loved the course, tell people about it. Tell us what you loved. Tell us if there's anything you'd like us to change. But also, if you found this important in some way, go and tell your friends about it. This course will run again in October, or you can write reviews on review sites just to let other people know about the course. We've got our sort of companion part 2 course, Maintaining a Mindful Life, which will run in August. And so you might want to sign up for that as well. Yeah.
So it's been great to be with everybody for these 4 weeks. And between now and hopefully seeing you and Maintaining a Mindful Life, you'll maintain a mindful life.
Probably should mention upgrades as well, actually. If you want to be able to sort of have these resources, the meditations, and in fact, the whole course, all of its resources into the future, please consider upgrading as well. And of course, just like to thank you, Craig, for the classic banter in these feedback videos each week. Like to thank all of the learners for your amazing contributions to the forums and your willingness to kind of engage with this, even when it's challenging. And also, of course, there's a massive team behind the scenes. So thanks to everybody at Monash. Thanks to Sherelle for being such a great mentor. And I guess see you all next time.